Hello everyone, my name's Tom. I'm back with another video. It's been a couple of weeks since the last video, so sorry about that. Good news for me though in that time is that the snow and ice that I complained about is all gone. Weather's warmed up a little bit, so that's nice. One place where the weather has not warmed up though is a place, well, this is a story I've been grimly fascinated by all this past week, and it's Texas in the USA, going through terrible winter storms. So what have we got here? President Biden to declare a major disaster. I'm surprised he hasn't already, quite frankly. It goes on to say, power is returning in the state because power has been out. We'll come to it, don't worry. And temperatures are set to rise, but some 13 million people are still facing difficulties accessing clean water. That's what I'm going to talk about first. Let's just have a quick look at some of the statistics. Temperatures plummeted to 30-year lows, hitting 0 Fahrenheit, minus 18 degrees centigrade. Now obviously for people in the United Kingdom where I live, that is incredibly cold. Incredibly cold. You'd have to go right to the north of Scotland, like in the most recent snap, to get anything like that. Down here in the sort of the east-ish of England, you know, minus 1.8 would be a disaster. Anyway, I said I was going to talk about water because obviously this has really affected utilities. And we're seeing scenes in Texas that you just wouldn't expect to see in the richest country in the world. Let's have a quick look at this video to just put us all in the picture of what's going on, what people are having to cope with. Power cuts force water treatment plants offline. Boil water first before drinking it. 7 million people have been asked to do that.
The temperature in the house was 33 degrees and now the power's back on, so it's warm, but we don't have any water. So I'm here to get water. I've been to several different stores and no one has water.
Thing is, today when the mayor was talking about this might last till Monday, I looked at my water and I have less than a case of water, so I said, yeah, let's go start looking for water.
Unbelievable. Houston is the 4th largest city in America, and they've been told, sorry, no drinking water for a few days, which is quite unbelievable. Now obviously we know that this is primarily caused by power going out. It's an even bigger problem just the water, because 60% of Texans use electricity to heat their homes. So obviously when the grid goes down, we've got a massive problem. Why has this happened? Well, it turns out the Lone Star state also has its own very own Lone Star electricity grid. Here's a video that I think explains things quite well. So let's have a look to see why Texas even is in this situation when frankly its neighbouring states and Mexico to the south aren't.
In Texas, more than 2 million people lost power this week due to record low temperatures and the statewide winter storm. On Sunday, President Biden declared an emergency in the Lone Star State. But why and how did the power grid fail in Texas? Texas is unique when it comes to electricity. The entire state is served by a single grid, and it has very limited connectivity with surrounding states. It is run by the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT,
That's a
nonprofit organization which is controlled by the state legislature. In North America, there are 3 electric grids: the Western Interconnection, the Eastern Interconnection, and the ERCOT Interconnection. ERCOT manages the electric load for about 90% of Texas. Texas controls its own grid and maintains its independence from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which regulates interstate electric transmission. Due to fear of federal interference, utilities in Texas made an agreement around 1935 to keep all power transmission inside the state. On Sunday night, ERCOT began calling for rotating outages in order to avoid widespread blackouts. The statewide grid was unable to meet customers' demand. By Monday, ERCOT released a statement declaring a state of emergency. Short rolling blackouts weren't enough for the severe power shortage, and many Texans lost power for extended periods of time. A combination of freezing temperatures that halted generating capacity and an increase in demand as residents raised their heat to stave off record-breaking low temperatures threw off the equilibrium of supply and demand.
That's a very telling phrase right at the end there. It threw off the equilibrium of supply and demand. And what happens when you throw away the equilibrium of supply and demand? This, as Texas deep freeze subsides, some households now face electricity bills as high as $10,000. What? As the Texas power grid collapsed under a historic winter storm, Jose Del Rio of Haltom City in the Dallas-Fort Worth area saw the electricity bill on a vacant two-bedroom home he is trying to sell slowly creep up over the past 2 weeks. Typically, the bill is around $125 to $150 a month, he said, but his account has already been charged about $630 this month, and he still owes another $2,600. What the hell? When he contacted Griddy, his electric company, they advised him to switch providers. Oh, thanks. Griddy's prices are controlled by the market. The market. You know, that thing that's best for all of us? Griddy's prices are controlled by the market and therefore vulnerable to sudden swings in demand. With extreme weather, energy usage has soared up, pushing up wholesale power prices to more than $9,000 per megawatt hour, compared to the seasonal average of $50 per megawatt hour. $50. 50 to 9,000. I've crunched the numbers, everyone. That's a rise of 17,900%. 17,900%. So basically how it works this paints a very good picture of how it works. Texas has said, up yours to the federal government. You're not regulating us. We'll just have our very own power system and we'll just do it all ourselves. Now clear off. So obviously, when you have your own self-contained power grid that's gouging customers and scrimping on maintenance and not doing any resilience work, you can make an awful lot of money, especially when you're charging $9,000 per megawatt hour. Anyway, so how consumers are getting this in America is that you can Texas, you can buy your energy on a fixed rate or a variable plan, a bit like, I suppose, mortgages in this country. You can take a fixed rate mortgage, and you can plan and budget, but you take the risk that you might end up paying more in interest than you perhaps would have needed to. Or you can, gamble a bit and go with a variable, although, Bank of England base rate's so low at the moment. So basically what's happened here is that unprecedented winter temperatures have come along. Demand for energy has soared and the means to produce that energy has shut down. So demand up, supply right down, and like in any supply and demand market-based system, that's only going to do one thing to prices. So basically, I mean, if you excuse the pun, it's a perfect storm. So it's a perfect, for years people in Texas have been conned by megalomaniacs who are pushing the lie that deregulation means freedom. They even got folks like Joe Rogan to proudly announce that he's moving there so he can get himself some of that sweet, sweet freedom. How's the freedom, Joe? I know you watch my videos. And to top it all off, there's no scant consumer protection for folks whose bills have soared by 18,000%. If that's freedom, you can shove it. Anyway, at least people are surely learning lessons from this, and people are coming together to try and help each other out in this crisis, right? No. Here's a story that I saw during the week. Tough guy Texas mayor tells residents to fend for themselves and resigns. Sooner or later, people will learn social media ends careers. Former Colorado City Mayor Tim Boyd learnt that lesson on Tuesday when he started slamming his tough guy fingers into his tough guy keyboard and vomited a Facebook post full of tough guyness. What am I talking about? Well, he wrote this screed on Facebook, which I will now read for you. It's not very easy to read because it's riddled with mistakes, but I'll do my best. No one owes you or your family anything. I suppose that means no one owes you or your family anything. Nor is it the local government's responsibility to support you during trying times like this. Sink or swim, it's your choice. The city and county, along with power providers, or any other services owes you nothing. Very Trump-like. I'm sick and tired of people looking for a damn handout. If you don't have electricity, you step up and come up with a game plan to keep your family warm and safe. Well, hang on a minute. My game plan was to go to work, earn money, and pay an electric provider. What's wrong with that plan, arsehole? If you have no water, you deal without and think outside the box to survive and supply water to your family. What, take it out of a river, or a frozen river? Steal it? What are you talking about, mate? If you're sitting at home in the cold because you have no power and are sitting there waiting for someone to come rescue you because you're lazy is direct result of your raising. You're lazy is direct. I did read that right. Weird. Only the strong will survive and the weak will perish. Folks, God has given us the tools to support ourselves in times like this. An electricity grid. Well, God didn't give us that, but this is sadly a product of a socialist government where they feed people to believe that the few will work and others will become dependent for handouts. I'm sorry that you've been dealing without electricity and water, but I'll be damned if I'm going to provide for anyone that is capable of doing it themselves. We have lost sight of those in need and those that take advantage of the system and mesh them into one group. Bottom line, quit crying and looking for a handout. Get off your ass and take care of your own family. Bottom line. Again, don't be a part of problem, be a part of the solution. And then he resigned. This is the sort of libertarian. This is why libertarians are dangerous, because they believe this shit. They actually think that if all your power goes down, it's not the government that you pay taxes to, although I suppose in fairness they're against taxes. But anyway, it's not the government's fault. You need to go and somehow cobble together your own electricity supply. Are you out of water? Well, you need to, fashion some water purification device in your shed and head on down to the river. Unbelievable. These people don't believe in society. Anyway, he's resigned, but there are others, in my opinion, that should resign who won't. Especially people who are pushing the hoo-ha about what has caused this problem. What has caused the electricity problems? Okay? Why has it gone down? Some people never let a good crisis go to waste, especially when they have an agenda to push. Like this arsehole. Yep. Tucker Carlson of Fox News. He's got his own take on it. Let's take a listen. I won't subject you to much. It's a 9-minute clip, but honestly, 30 seconds. Trust me on this. All right?
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. Happy Monday. Well, the Green New Deal has come, believe it or not, to the state of Texas. And we're here with the report. How's it working out so far? Well, the good news is all that alternative energy seems to have had a remarkable effect on the climate, as intended. Last night, parts of Texas got to temperatures that we see in Alaska. In fact, they were the same as they were in Alaska. So global warming is no longer a pressing concern in Houston. We've solved that problem. The bad news is they don't have electricity. The windmills froze, so the power...
The windmills froze. This is such a bad faith. What do you expect from this guy? So basically, he's telling Texans the reason they don't have power is because all those fandangled hippie wind turbines have all frozen. Let's fact check him, shall we? This is the Huffington Post. All the ways the power grid failed in Texas. How a Texas-first energy policy turned Texas into a Texas-only energy failure. I sort of alluded to that earlier. I want to get down to here. Where does Texas get most of its energy? I heard wind power was at fault. Texas produces more energy than any other state and has the nation's highest share of wind production. Okay. During the winter, natural gas and coal together account for 82% of the state's power. But 82%? Wind contributes an additional 10%. Well, hang on a minute. Tucker Carlson just told us that the reason there's no electricity is because all the wind turbines have seized up in the cold. And it's only 10%? Nuclear 6, solar, hydroelectric make up the rest. Ironically, wind energy represented one bright spot for grid operators, as the resource, which tends to ebb in the winter months, actually surpassed daily production forecasts over the weekend. Frozen wind turbines accounted for less than 13% of the total outages this week. Dan Woodfin, a senior director of the hilariously named Electric Reliability Council of Texas, told Bloomberg. Natural gas outages were primarily to blame for the shutdown, the Texas Tribune concluded. At the peak of the crisis, nearly half the state's natural gas production was knocked offline. Since natural gas is used in both the production of energy and to directly heat some homes, gas shortages were especially damaging. Utilities prioritised the use of natural gas for heat over generating power, leading to competing interests for an already scarce resource. The major difference between what happens in the summer and what's happening now is competition for natural gas. If too many people are trying to consume natural gas, it can depressurise the lines, and if that pressure drops too low, they're no longer able to operate. The whole system isn't really set up to deliver what we're demanding of it. Well, no shit. Absolutely no shit. So we've got a carbon dependent energy grid with no resilience when the pipes freeze, and suddenly people on the right are rushing to blame wind turbines. And the worst thing about it is, people will believe them. They've been hearing the same narrative for decades, trashing the notion of climate change, or global warming, as Tucker Carlson dishonestly uses. As we all know, that term stopped being used by the scientific community precisely because climate change can produce this type of cold weather in places you would not expect to see it. But he's wheeling the old term out. Hey, look, it can't be global warming, because look, it's really cold in a place where it's not usually cold. Case closed. Do one. Anyway, look, this is all very depressing, so I think I'm going to sort of close out the video on a slightly lighter note. A slightly lighter note, because, I mean, some might find it funny. Robert Reich. Nothing says America first like inciting an insurrection against the US government, then escaping to Cancun while your constituents freeze in the dark. Who could he possibly be talking about? That's right, it's that revolting slug-like excuse for a human being, Ted Cruz. Just to catch you up, he helped foment the January 6th Capitol insurrection by running around telling people that the election was rigged and that he was going to vote against certifying the Electoral College results, giving many people the misguided belief that Biden's win could be overturned, which of course it could not. While Texans were coping with freezing conditions and power outages, their senator cleared off to Cancun. Cancun, if you don't know where that is, it's in Mexico. It's on the Caribbean coast. I suppose what would be a good comparison? Somewhere like, I don't know, Marbella would be for us. You know, the Costa del Sol, or just nice, hot places with beaches and restaurants and fun. I'd only find this trip acceptable if it was one way. But it wasn't, because 24 hours later, his sorry ass was back. And he spoke to the media, and he gave an explanation which I'm not sure has helped him, really. I'll let everyone watching make their own mind up. See what you think. Has this helped Cruz? Do we understand him a bit more now?
We were, by the second day, we were clustered around the fireplaces, the only source of heat. And so huddled up in jackets and by the fireplace, and our girls, when they got the news that school was canceled this week, they said, "Look, why don't we take a trip? Let's go somewhere where it's not so cold." And Heidi and I. This had been a tough week, and this has been a tough year for kids all across the state of Texas. And so we were trying to be good parents and said, okay, we'll do it. And so we booked the flight. I have to admit, I started having second thoughts almost the moment I sat down on the plane, because...
Yeah, when someone took a picture of you.
On the one hand, all of us who are parents have a responsibility to take care of our kids, take care of our family. That's something Texans have been doing across the state. But I also have a responsibility that I take very seriously of fighting for the state of Texas and frankly, leaving when so many Texans were hurting.
That's enough of that. Basically, it's all his daughter's fault. Yeah, their fault. They pressured him. They pressured him into taking them to Cancun. Okay, you can't pressure this guy to certify the results of a perfectly legitimate election with zero evidence of any fraud, but his two daughters can pressurize him to clear off to Cancun in the middle of one of Texas's greatest emergencies ever. What a snake! What a horrible human being, And what's his daughters going to think of this? Thanks, Dad. Thanks for blaming us. I I hope for their sake they don't. I mean, I hope nothing happens to them. I'm being serious here. You know, I hope their schoolmates don't hear all this. I mean, kids can be horrible to each other at the best of times. I mean, this guy is such a coward. He's such a coward. He can't just hold his hands up and say, you know what, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. No, he's got to come up with all this convoluted stuff. You know, oh, it's my daughters, I'm trying to be a good parent, blah, blah, blah. He might as well have said he was going there to test his eyesight. Folks, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, why not consider subscribing? I'm going to be trying to do more of these as the days and weeks and months move on, as we lurch from crisis to crisis on this spinning ball that's been completely messed up by all the people on it. So yeah, as I say, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.